Evan was a quiet young man who lived alone in a small farmhouse at the edge of a long forest. His days were simple and silent, and most nights he sat on his wooden porch and listened to the wind move through the trees. He had no family nearby, no friends who visited, and no one who ever knocked on his door for many years. Loneliness had become a normal part of his life. He did not expect anything to change, not even a little. But on one cold night, everything changed in a way he never imagined. The sky was darker than usual, thick clouds covering the moon, making the world outside look like a deep shadow. Evan sat inside near the small heater. Reading an old book, suddenly he heard something, a soft sound, almost like a tiny foot stepping on old leaves. At first, he ignored it, thinking maybe it was just the wind or a small animal wandering around as usual. But then he heard the sound again. This time a little clearer. It was light and careful, like someone trying not to be heard. Evan put his book down and listened. The sound came again, slow but steady. He felt a strange tension rise in his chest. His house was far from the town. No one walked here at night, especially not quietly like this. He stood up and walked toward the window, trying to look outside. But he could only see darkness. Something felt wrong. Or maybe something unexpected was happening. He could not tell which. Then he heard it, a very faint hum, like a soft glowing vibration in the air. Evan frowned. He had never heard a sound like that before. It was not the sound of wind, not of an animal, and not of any machine he knew. His heartbeat began to rise a little. He stepped toward the door slowly and opened it with careful hands. At first, he saw nothing. The darkness was heavy, and the cold wind touched his face. But then he noticed something strange. On the ground near his porch was a faint glowing trail. It looked like drops of light scattered on the soil. Tiny soft blue sparks shining gently. Evan had never seen anything like it. He crouched down and touched the soil. The glowing dust stuck to his fingers for a moment, before fading away. A cold breeze passed behind him, carrying the same soft hum he heard earlier. Evan stood up and felt a mix of fear and curiosity. He followed the glowing trail with slow steps. Each mark seemed fresh, as if something had walked here only moments ago. Something small, something glowing, something alive. The sound suddenly stopped. The night became silent again. Evan felt his heart tighten. He looked around, but the darkness around him was still empty. He was about to turn back when he felt something touch him. It was soft, cold, and very small, like a tiny hand wrapping around his fingers from below. Evan froze instantly. His breath stuck in his throat. He did not move for a full second. Then slowly, with a stiff neck, he looked down at where the touch came from. Standing beside his leg was a tiny creature, barely reaching his knee. Its body glowed gently with a pale blue light, making its outline visible even in the darkness. It looked like a child, not a human child, but something alien. Its eyes were large and shiny, filled with fear and sadness. Its little hand was tightly holding Evan's fingers, refusing to let go. Evan's breath finally came back, but it came weak and shaky. He had seen strange things in movies, he had heard stories, but he never imagined something like this would stand in front of him. The tiny alien trembled, its glow flickering softly like a candle in the wind. It looked up at him with eyes full of begging, as if asking for safety, for warmth, for help. Evan knelt slowly so he would not scare it. The alien did not step back. Instead, it moved closer and pressed its tiny glowing hand into Evan's palm. Evan felt a warm emotion inside him, a feeling he had not felt in a very long time. Someone, something, was reaching out to him, trusting him before he could speak. A strange deep sound echoed from the forest, heavy and metallic, like something large moving between the trees. The tiny alien flinched and held Evan's hand tighter. Its glow changed to a sharp, frightened flicker. Evan looked toward the forest, his heartbeat racing. Something was out there, Something big. Something searching. In that moment, he understood one thing clearly. Whatever this tiny glowing creature was running from, it was now standing right at his door. And his life would never be the same again. Evan stood frozen for a moment, feeling the tiny alien's trembling hand in his own. The creature's glow flickered like a weak flame fighting the wind. Its large eyes looked up at him with a mix of fear and hope. As the strange metallic sound from the forest faded slowly, Evan knew he could not leave it outside. Whatever was searching for this little being was dangerous, and it was getting closer each second, very gently. Evan bent down and lifted the tiny alien into his arms. The creature was light, almost weightless. Its skin felt smooth, warm, and soft, and its glow brightened a little as if it finally felt safer. Evan carried it inside his house and shut the door quietly. He pressed his back against the door and took a long breath. Trying to calm himself, he still did not understand what was happening. But one thing was clear: the small glowing being trusted him. And that trust meant something. The alien looked around Evan's living room with slow, curious eyes, its glow reflected off the wooden walls, making the room look warmer than usual. Evan placed it carefully on the old sofa. The alien sat with its small legs pulled close, still holding Evan's fingers tightly as if scared he might leave. "You're safe here," Evan whispered softly, even though he knew the alien might not understand his words. But the creature seemed to understand his tone. Its glow softened, becoming calm and gentle. Evan walked to the kitchen and brought a bowl of warm water, a small piece of bread, and a few soft fruits when he returned. The alien watched him with shy but bright eyes. Evan placed the food on the table and stepped back to show he meant no harm. The tiny creature sniffed the air, slowly climbed down from the sofa, and touched the bowl with its glowing fingers. When the alien touched the water, the surface shimmered with a faint blue light. Evan's eyes widened, amazed. The creature dipped its tiny hands into the water and drank in small sips. Its glow grew stronger, brighter, like it was feeding on both the water and the warmth of the room. After it finished, the alien looked at Evan again, then slowly, it raised its hand and touched the wooden table. A glowing pattern spread from its fingers' circles. Lines, symbols, shapes Evan had never seen. They floated above the table like small lights dancing in the air. Evan stepped closer, confused but fascinated. The alien pointed toward the glowing symbols, then toward the door, then pressed its hand to its chest. Evan understood the message slowly. The alien was trying to communicate. It was trying to tell him why it came here. Evan pointed at the glowing shapes, then gently touched his own chest, asking silently, "Is this your story?" The alien nodded quickly. Its glow became dim again, showing sadness. It touched one symbol, a round shape, then moved its hand slowly in the air, creating a new glowing image of a burning place, broken pieces, falling structures, and dark figures that looked frightening and tall. Evan realized what the alien was showing. Its home had been attacked. The small creature had escaped, but its family, maybe taken or hurt. The tiny alien's hands shook, its glow weak and slow. It looked at Evan with eyes full of deep pain. A pain no child, human or alien, should ever feel. Evan felt something heavy in his heart. He knew loneliness very well. But the alien's loneliness was far worse. It had lost its world, its people, and everything it knew, and now it had no one except him. He moved closer and gently placed his hand on the alien's head. The creature leaned into his touch, as if it had been waiting for comfort for a long time. Its glow brightened a little. The floating symbols faded slowly, leaving the room quiet again. Suddenly the house shook lightly. A low rumble passed through the walls. Evan turned quickly, cold fear rushing through his body. The sound came again, heavy footsteps, metallic scraping, and a deep humming that vibrated the floor. The hunters were still out there, searching, getting closer every minute. The alien rushed to Evan, hugging his leg tightly. Its glow flashed in panic. Evan bent down and picked it up, holding it close. He whispered, "It's okay, I'm here," even though he was scared too. The creature's small hands gripped his shirt. Shaking with fear, Evan looked at the window. Shadows moving behind the trees. The night outside was no longer empty. Something powerful and dangerous was hunting the alien child, and now that the creature had come to him, he knew he was part of this strange and terrifying story. He did not know what those hunters wanted. But one thing was sure, they would not stop until they found the tiny alien. And Evan would not let that happen. Evan held the tiny alien close to his chest. Feeling its small hands gripping tightly, the creature's glow flickered with fear, lighting the dark corners of the house in soft blue light. Outside, the strange metallic noises grew louder, echoing through the forest like something heavy and dangerous was moving between the trees. Evan's heart beat fast, but he knew he had to stay calm for the little being in his arms. He moved slowly to the window and peeked outside. The forest was thick with shadows, and he could barely see anything. But then he noticed something, small flashes of sharp blue light cutting through the darkness. They moved like scanners, sweeping across the ground in tree trunks. Searching for something, searching for someone. The tiny alien buried its face against Evan's shirt, its glow dimmed. Until it was almost invisible, Evan gently rubbed its back, trying to comfort it. "It's okay," he whispered softly, though he wasn't sure if that was true. The hunters, whoever they were close, too close. Suddenly, a deep metallic thump shook the ground. Evan stepped back from the window, alert and frightened. He heard branches snapping and heavy footsteps crushing dead leaves. It sounded like more than one creature, maybe 3 or 4, moving slowly, carefully, like trained predators tracking their prey. The alien lifted its head slightly and pointed toward the window, its small hand shaking. It made a soft humming sound, a warning. Evan listened more closely. His breath caught as he heard a strange clicking sound coming from outside. It was rhythmic, mechanical, almost like coded signals being exchanged between metal creatures. Evan felt a cold shiver go down his spine. These hunters were not humans. They were organized, intelligent, and they were communicating with each other, searching step by step across his land. He looked around the room, thinking fast. The house felt too open, too exposed. The wooden walls shook every time one of the hunters stepped on the ground outside. Evan knew they would eventually reach his door. They were tracking the alien's glowing trail, and they were getting closer every second. The alien suddenly reached out toward the table, touching it with glowing fingers again. A blue light spread across the surface, forming a new shape. Evan leaned closer, trying to understand. The image showed tall figures with sharp armor, glowing helmets, and long mechanical legs. They looked almost like soldiers or machines with living minds. The alien pointed at the glowing image, then pressed its hand to its chest. Then it pointed toward the door. Evan understood what it was trying to say. These were the ones who destroyed its home. These were the hunters. They had taken the alien's family, and now they were coming for the last survivor. Evan felt anger rise in his chest. He couldn't understand why anyone would hunt a child, alien or human. But he knew one thing: he could not let this little being fall into their hands. Another loud thump shook the house. The tiny alien gasped and held Evan's arm tightly, instinctively trying to hide. Evan looked around. He needed to move. Staying inside would trap them. He had to escape before the hunters surrounded his home fully. He hurried to the back door, carrying the alien. The moment he opened it, a cold wind rushed in, but the woods behind his house were quieter, darker, maybe safer. He stepped out and closed the door behind him, trying not to make a sound. The alien clung to him, its glow faint but steady. Evan moved through the trees, stepping over roots and dry leaves, trying to stay silent. The forest felt alive with tension. Every sound, every rustle, every whisper of wind made him turn his head. The alien raised its hand and pointed forward, Its glow pulsed lightly, guiding him through the safest path. Behind them, the hunters moved closer. Evan could hear their heavy steps and the deep mechanical hums they produced. One of them made a sharp metallic screech that echoed across the forest. It sounded like a command. Evan's heart sped up. They had found the trail. They were following. Evan crouched behind a fallen log, holding the alien tight. The little creature's glow dimmed almost completely, making them blend with the darkness. Evan peeked through the branches and saw it, a tall figure with a glowing mask scanning the ground. It had 4 legs like a machine but moved like a living creature. Its armor glowed with sharp red lines, and its eyes swept the area like bright scanners. Another hunter appeared from the side. They communicated with clicks and flashes of light. Searching for the alien child, Evan held his breath, not daring to move. The alien gently touched his hand and sent a faint warm pulse through his skin. It was scared, but it was also telling him something. Trust me. Evan closed his eyes and waited. The hunters moved past them slowly, scanning every corner. But somehow, they missed the spot where Evan and the alien hid. After a long, terrifying moment, the hunters continued deeper into the woods, searching elsewhere. Evan exhaled softly, relief washing over him. But he knew this was only the beginning. The hunters were not giving up. They were stronger, faster, and they had technology he couldn't understand. But Evan also had something they didn't: the tiny alien child who trusted him completely, and the courage to protect it. The fight for survival had only just started. Evan and the tiny alien moved deeper into the forest, putting more distance between themselves and the hunters. The cold night air brushed against their skin, and the forest floor was covered with soft leaves that muffled their footsteps. Evan held the alien close, making sure it stayed warm and calm. The little being's glow had returned to a soft, gentle light, showing it felt a little safer now. After walking for several minutes, Evan found a small clearing where a large fallen tree formed a kind of natural shelter. He carefully lowered the alien to the ground. The creature looked around with wide eyes, curious and alert. Its glow cast soft blue reflections on the tree bark and on Evan's face. "We'll rest here for a moment," Evan whispered, even though he knew the alien might not understand his words. But the tone of his voice seemed to comfort the small being. It sat down beside him, its tiny hand reaching out to touch his sleeve, as if making sure he was still there. Evan watched the alien quietly. Now that they had a small moment of peace, he could see more details of the creature. Its skin was smooth and glowing faintly, its eyes large and full of emotion, and its movements were delicate, almost shy. It looked like a child, lost and scared, yet trying to be brave. To help the alien relax, Evan reached into his bag and pulled out a small bottle of water and an apple. The alien sniffed the apple, then gently touched it. A soft blue line of light ran across the fruit as the creature examined it. Then it took a small bite. Its glow brightened instantly, showing that it liked the taste. Evan smiled, watching the creature happily nibble on the apple. It made soft humming sounds that echoed lightly in the clearing. Evan realized those sounds were not random. They were signs of comfort and trust. It was finally feeling safe with him. After eating, the alien moved closer and lightly touched Evan's hand. Evan understood the gesture. It wanted to thank him, or maybe it simply wanted to stay close. Evan gently held its tiny hand in return. The alien looked up at him with bright, shining eyes that carried both pain and hope in that moment. Evan felt something he had not felt in many years, a warm, gentle feeling as if someone truly needed him. For so long, he had lived alone and quiet, feeling like he had no place in the world. But this tiny alien had given him something different, something powerful: connection. The alien suddenly raised its other hand and touched Evan's chest. A small pulse of blue light spread across Evan's shirt, not hot or cold, but warm and soothing. Then the light expanded into the air, forming soft floating shapes. At first, Evan didn't understand what the shapes were, but as they became clearer, he realized the alien was showing him memories. The glowing images showed the alien with its family, tall, gentle creatures with similar glowing patterns. They stood together in a peaceful place filled with bright plants and floating lights. The memory felt calm and warm, but then the images changed. The peaceful scene darkened, huge shadows appeared, and the hunters attacked. Evan watched as the alien child tried to run while its family fought to protect it. The glowing shapes trembled, showing fear and loss. The final shape showed the child hiding inside a small pod, alone and crying, before being launched away. When the images faded, the alien's glow dimmed again. Evan felt a deep sorrow in his chest. He gently placed his hand on the alien's shoulder. The creature leaned into him, letting out a soft, sad hum. It was clear that it had lost everything: its home, its family, its entire world. "I'm here," Evan said softly. "You're not alone." The alien looked at him with deep, shining eyes. Its glow grew warmer, brighter, as if those words reached its heart. Suddenly, the forest around them rustled. Evan tensed instantly. He held the alien protectively, ready to run again, but the sound was only a small animal running through the leaves. The alien relaxed a bit, but the reminder was clear: danger still surrounded them. Evan knew he could not stay in one place for long. The hunters were still searching, and they would not stop until they captured the tiny alien. He needed a plan. He needed a safe place, somewhere hidden, somewhere the hunters could not reach. He looked at the alien, its small hand still wrapped around his wrist, its glow warm and trusting. In that moment, Evan made a silent promise. He would protect this child no matter what. Even if he had to face the hunters alone, even if he had to risk his life, he would not let the tiny alien fall into their hands. Because for the first time in his lonely life, someone needed him, and he was not going to fail them. The night grew colder as Evan and the tiny alien rested beneath the fallen tree. The forest was quiet for a few minutes, but the silence felt dangerous, not peaceful. Evan kept his ears open, listening for anything unusual. The alien sat close to him, its small hand wrapped around his arm. Its glow had become steady again, showing it felt a little safer, but its eyes still held fear. Evan knew they could not stay in one place for long. The hunters were still out there, scanning the forest, tracking every sign of the alien's path. He didn't know how smart they were, but from everything he had seen, they were fast, organized, and determined. They would not stop until they captured the tiny creature. And if they found Evan helping it, he knew they would not spare him either. He looked at the alien and spoke softly. "We need to move soon." The creature looked up and hummed a quiet, worried sound. It understood, even without words, the danger surrounding them. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the forest like a strong branch breaking under heavy weight. Evan froze. His heart began to pound hard in his chest. He turned slowly toward the sound. The alien grabbed his sleeve tightly, its glow flickering fast. Then he heard another sound. Closer this time, a deep mechanical hum mixed with heavy footsteps pressing into the ground. Evan felt the vibration in the earth beneath him. The hunters were not far. They were closing in. "We have to go," Evan whispered urgently. He lifted the tiny alien into his arms and slipped deeper between the trees. Trying to stay as quiet as possible, he stepped on soft patches of soil, avoiding dry leaves that could make noise. The alien held onto him with both hands, silently guiding him by pointing to safer paths. But the hunters were fast. Their humming grew louder, spreading through the forest like a warning. Evan could hear them communicating in sharp clicks, metallic pulses bouncing between the trees. They were scanning, searching, hunting. As Evan moved, he saw strange glowing marks on the ground, thin, sharp lines cut into the soil like laser scratches. The alien touched one of the marks and let out a frightened hum. Evan understood immediately. The hunters had already passed through this area. They were circling the forest, trying to trap them inside. He moved faster, pushing through thick bushes and stepping over fallen branches. His arms grew tired, but he refused to put the alien down. The creature meant too much to him now, trust, connection, and a responsibility heavier than anything he had ever felt. Up ahead, Evan saw something that made his stomach twist. A tall tree had been sliced cleanly in half, as if some powerful weapon had cut through it in one blow. The upper half lay on the ground, burning faintly with sparks. Evan's breath caught. The hunters were using advanced weapons far beyond anything humans had. The alien pressed its tiny head against Evan's chest. Its glow dim, showing fear. Evan held it closer, whispering, "I won't let them touch you." A soft beep echoed from behind them, short, sharp and cold. Evan turned slowly and saw a flash of red light moving between the trees. It grew brighter with every second. The hunters had found their trail. Evan ducked behind a tree and held the alien close. The red light passed slowly, sweeping over the ground, searching for movement. Evan held his breath, not daring to blink. The alien pressed its small glowing hand against his chest, sending a soft warm pulse through him. As if saying, "Stay calm." The red light paused, scanning, then finally moved away. Evan exhaled slowly, relief washing over him. But the moment was short. The ground shook again, this time much stronger. Evan turned his head and saw shadows approaching, tall and sharp, moving in long strides between the trees. There was no time to hide again. He had to run, with the alien in his arms. Evan sprinted deeper into the forest, pushing through branches and stumbling over roots. His breath became heavy, and his legs ached, but he kept running. The hunters followed, their mechanical steps shaking the forest floor like a storm. Bright beams of red and blue light cut through the trees, scanning everything in their path. Evan ducked and dodged, moving as fast as he could. But the hunters were getting closer, too close. Up ahead, he saw a narrow path leading toward a rocky hill. It was steep, but it offered cover. Evan rushed toward it, climbing over stones and pulling himself upward. The alien held tightly, guiding him with its glow. Its light shifted from blue to soft white, signaling hope, direction, safety. When they reached the top of the hill, Evan looked back and saw the hunters spread out below. Scanning the forest floor, they were seconds away from finding his trail again. Evan's breath came fast and shaky, but he held the alien close and whispered, "Don't worry." His voice trembled. But the alien trusted him. It rested its small hand on his shoulder, its glow warm and comforting. The hunters were getting closer, step by heavy step. Evan realized he had only one choice. He had to run again, farther than before, to a place the hunters could not reach. He stood up, holding the alien tightly, and prepared to continue the fight for survival. Because no matter how strong the hunters were, he would not let them take the child, not now, not ever. Evan stood at the top of the rocky hill with the tiny alien held close to his chest. His breathing was heavy and fast, his heart pounding like a drum inside him. The hunters' red and blue scanning lights moved below like restless ghosts searching for life. The forest felt tighter, darker, and more dangerous than ever before. But Evan knew one thing: he would not stop running, not as long as the alien child needed him. The tiny alien pointed with a faint low toward the far side of the hill. Its gentle hum carried urgency. Evan followed its direction and saw a narrow path, leading into a darker part of the forest where the trees grew tall and close together, forming a natural tunnel of shadows. It was risky, but it might hide them from the hunters' scanners. "We'll go there," Evan whispered. And the alien gave a soft nod, its glow warming slightly. He climbed down the hill quietly, choosing soft soil and moss-covered stones to avoid making noise. The alien clung to him, its small arms wrapped tightly around his neck. Every so often, it looked back at the bright scanning lights with fear, but Evan whispered calming words, trying to keep its glow steady and gentle. Once they reached the bottom, the strange metallic footsteps behind them grew louder again. Evan hurried into the dark path, branches brushing against his arms and face. The forest air felt heavy, but the darkness helped hide them well. For several minutes, he moved carefully, guided only by the alien's soft glow and his own will to protect it. When the hunter's sounds faded a little, Evan slowed his steps. His legs trembled from exhaustion, and his arms ached from carrying the alien for so long. He found a small hidden space between two giant roots and gently sat down. Placing the alien beside him, the creature leaned against him. Still breathing fast but calm enough to rest, Evan touched its tiny shoulder. "We're safe for a moment." The alien looked up and gave a soft blue glow, as if saying thank you. After a few minutes of silence, the alien lifted its hand again and touched the ground. A small circle of blue light spread across the soil like ripples on water. Then, glowing lines formed an image, a broken round object with wires and shattered pieces. Evan recognized it immediately. It was the beacon the alien had shown earlier, the same device that had once connected the child to its people. The alien pointed to the northeast direction, then pointed to the glowing beacon image again. Evan understood the child wanted to find the real beacon. It could be repaired, and maybe, just maybe, it could call help from the alien's own kind. Evan felt a spark of hope. It was small, but it was enough. "Is it close?" he asked. The alien nodded gently. Evan stood up, wiped sweat from his forehead, and picked up the alien again. "Then let's go." He moved carefully, following the alien's glowing finger pointing the way. They traveled through deeper forest until the trees grew so dense that barely any moonlight touched the ground. The air was colder and filled with strange sounds, but the alien's glow kept their path visible. Suddenly, the alien stopped and looked ahead with wide eyes. It hummed softly, excited but also nervous. Evan pushed aside thick branches and stepped into a small clearing. In the center was a large rock formation covered in moss, and tucked beneath it, half buried under roots and dirt, was a strange metallic object. The alien rushed toward it, touching it with glowing hands. The object responded immediately, faint lights flickering across its surface. It truly was the broken beacon, shaped like a small smooth sphere with cracks running through its sides. Evan knelt beside the alien. "Can you fix it?" The creature nodded and pressed its hands onto the beacon. Its glow brightened intensely, spreading light across the metal surface. The cracks slowly filled with blue energy, and the sphere began to vibrate softly. But the moment the beacon activated, even weakly, the forest around them changed. The air pulsed with a soft wave of light that rose upward into the sky. It was a signal, faint but visible. Far away, deep in the forest, the hunters stopped walking. Their masks glowed bright red. They had detected the signal, and they were turning toward it. Evan's heart sank. "They know." He looked at the alien, still repairing the beacon with all its strength. "You have to hurry," Evan whispered urgently. The alien worked faster, pouring more of its glow into the device. The sphere brightened until it shone like a small star in the clearing, suddenly emitting a soft upward beam. A friendly ship would eventually see it. Evan knew that now. But the hunters would arrive much sooner. The ground shook, heavy steps growing closer, metal striking earth, trees snapping under massive weight. Evan turned and saw red lights approaching through the trees like burning eyes. He picked up the alien with one arm and grabbed the beacon with the other. The alien clung to him, exhausted but hopeful. Its glow weak but steady. "We run," Evan whispered. Now, he sprinted into the forest, pushing through darkness, carrying the alien child and the one thing that might save them, while the hunters closed in like a storm, ready to crush everything in its path. Evan ran through the forest with the tiny alien in one arm and the glowing beacon in the other. His legs burned with pain, and his breath came out in broken gasps, but he did not stop. The hunter's heavy footsteps shook the ground behind him. their red scanning lights slicing through the trees like sharp blades. He knew they were faster, stronger, and built for chasing. But he also knew something else. He could not let them take the alien child. He simply couldn't. The alien hugged his neck tightly, its glow flickering weakly as exhaustion began to pull its strength away, even in its fragile state. It pointed with a trembling hand toward a narrow path between two ancient trees. Evan followed the direction without question, trusting the little being completely. "We're going to make it," he whispered, even though fear trembled in his voice. The alien hummed a soft, tired sound, as if trying to answer. "I believe you." Behind them, the hunters let out sharp metallic screeches, commands. Warnings or signals, Evan didn't know, but they sent a cold shiver up his spine. He pushed himself harder, running until his vision blurred. His shoes slipped on wet leaves, branches scratched his arms and neck. But he kept going. The alien needed him. The beacon in his hand grew brighter and brighter, sending a thin beam of blue light into the sky. It pulsed in rising waves, calling, searching, reaching out for help. Evan didn't know if anyone friendly would answer. But the tiny alien looked at the beacon, with hope glowing softly in its eyes. After several minutes, the forest suddenly opened into a wide clearing. The sky above was dark and star-filled, and the moon hung low like a silver shield. Evan stopped for a moment, breathing heavily. The alien looked up at the night sky as if waiting for something. Something important, something familiar. Then the ground trembled again, louder, closer, more violent than before. Evan spun around and saw them, 3 hunters charging into the clearing. Their tall, armored bodies moved with frightening speed, red lights flashing like warnings on their helmets. Their long metallic legs dug deep into the ground as they ran, and their clicking voices echoed across the clearing. The alien gasped and buried its face against Evan's chest. Evan held it with both arms, stepping back slowly, trying to protect it with his body. He knew he could not outrun them now. He knew he could not fight them, but he still refused to give up. As the hunters took their final steps forward, ready to capture them, something in the sky changed. A soft blue glow appeared high above the trees, growing brighter by the second. Evan squinted, confused. The hunters suddenly froze, their red eyes turning upward. The alien lifted its head slowly, its tired eyes filling with sudden, overwhelming hope. The glowing spot in the sky expanded, forming a circle of pure blue light. A deep hum filled the clearing, calm, warm, powerful. Nothing like the hunter's cold mechanical sound. This hum felt alive, a sleek, glowing ship descended from the clouds, its shape smooth and elegant. Its lights matched the alien child's glow, shining in gentle blue and white patterns. Evan felt the alien's small hands tighten around him, not in fear this time, but in relief. The hunters panicked, their scanning lights flickering. They stepped back and began clicking to each other rapidly, but it was too late. The ship released a wave of energy that spread across the clearing like a dome. The hunters staggered and fell, their red eyes dimming, their limbs collapsing under the force. In seconds, they went completely still. Evan stared, breathless, unable to believe what he had just seen. The ship landed softly, and a door opened with a gentle blue glow. 3 figures stepped out, tall aliens with the same soft patterns of light on their skin as the tiny child. Their movements were calm, graceful, and filled with emotion. The alien child reached out toward them, glowing brightly for the first time since Evan found it. But it did not jump out of Evan's arms. Instead, it held his shirt tightly, turning back to look at him. Its eyes were full of something deep: gratitude, love, and a sadness that came from saying goodbye. One of the tall aliens approached slowly, bowing their head to Evan in thanks. Their eyes showed understanding, respect, and relief. They waited patiently for the child to decide. The tiny alien touched Evan's cheek, letting out a soft, warm hum. It pressed its small forehead against his chest for a long moment, its glow wrapping around him like a final embrace. Evan closed his eyes, holding it gently. Fighting the heavy feeling rising inside him, he whispered, "You'll be safe now." The child pulled back, tears of glowing light forming at the corners of its eyes. It reached out its tiny hand toward the tall aliens, who stepped forward and carefully lifted it into their arms. The alien child looked at Evan one last time. Glowing brightly brighter than ever, the tall aliens bowed again, their lights flickering in a respectful farewell. Then they turned and boarded the ship, carrying the child inside as the ship rose into the sky. The clearing filled with waves of blue light. Evan watched it disappear among the stars. His arms felt empty, but his heart did not. For the first time in many years, he did not feel alone. A tiny alien had grabbed his hand and changed his life forever. And from that moment on, he knew he was never truly empty again. After the glowing ship disappeared into the sky, Evan stood alone in the silent clearing. The blue lights that washed over the forest slowly faded, leaving behind the cold night and the rustle of leaves. His arms felt strangely empty, as if they had been carrying something more than a small alien child, something warm, something alive, something that filled the quiet spaces inside him. For a long time, Evan did not move. He kept staring at the sky, half expecting the ship to return, half hoping the tiny alien would run back into his arms just one more time. But the sky remained still, filled only with stars that sparkled like distant memories. Finally, Evan turned and walked back into the forest. Each step felt heavy, but his heart was different. Something inside him had changed forever. He had spent years living in loneliness, thinking no one needed him. No one cared if he lived or disappeared. But one small glowing hand had proved him wrong. Evan slowly made his way back through the dark trees, following the familiar path to his home. The forest was calm now, the hunters gone, their metallic threat erased by the alien rescuers. The air felt lighter than before, as if the forest itself could breathe again. When Evan reached his farmhouse, he paused. The door stood slightly open from when he had run out in panic. He walked inside, and the quiet hit him instantly. The small wooden house felt too still, too empty, as if the warmth the alien had brought with its glow had left with it. Evan sat on his old sofa and placed his hands on his knees. He breathed slowly, letting the silence settle around him. For the first time in his life, silence didn't feel like an enemy, it felt like a memory. A soft reminder of the tiny creature that had trusted him completely. On the table in front of him lay the small bowl he had once given the alien. The water inside still had a faint shimmer of blue, leftover light from the child. Evan touched the bowl gently, and for a moment, he could almost feel the warmth of the alien's tiny hand again. Days passed slowly. Evan returned to his routine. But nothing felt the same. Every sound in the forest reminded him of the alien's soft hum. Every breeze through the trees felt like its gentle touch. At night, he sat on the porch and looked at the stars, wondering which one the alien now called home, wondering if it remembered him the same way he remembered it. One evening, as Evan rested on the porch, he noticed something strange in the sky, a small blue spark moving slowly across the darkness. It wasn't a plane, it wasn't a star, and it didn't move like anything he recognized. It glowed softly, pulsed, then vanished. Evan smiled. A soft, warm smile he hadn't felt in years. "It's you, isn't it?" he whispered into the night, even though he knew he wouldn't get an answer. The thought warmed him deeply. The next morning, he found something unusual outside his door. On the wooden porch was a small glowing stone, smooth, round, and shining with the same gentle blue light the alien had. Evan picked it up carefully, feeling a faint warmth spread through his fingers. The light pulsed once, softly, like a heartbeat. The alien child had left this for him. Maybe as thanks, maybe as a memory, maybe as a promise. Evan kept the stone on a shelf near his bed, It glowed faintly every night, filling his room with a soft blue light that comforted him. It felt like the alien's way of saying, "You are not alone, even across the vast distance of space." Weeks turned into months, and Evan changed slowly. He felt stronger, braver, and more alive. The loneliness that once covered his life like a heavy blanket had been lifted. He started fixing things around his house, planting flowers outside, walking more often in the forest. He even visited the nearby town, something he avoided for years. People noticed the change in him. He looked happier, calmer, and more hopeful. Though he never told anyone the full story, the glow inside him was impossible to hide. Sometimes, when he walked through the forest at night, the leaves around him shimmered faintly, almost as if they remembered the alien child too. And every time he saw a faint blue shimmer in the sky, he whispered the same words, "I hope you're safe. I hope you're happy, and thank you." Because Van finally understood something deep. You don't need years or words or familiar faces to feel connected. Sometimes all it takes is a single moment, a single touch, a tiny alien hand grabbing your own.